Standing tall in the heart of Rome, the Colosseum draws millions, admired as a masterpiece of ancient architecture. But beyond its grand facade lies a darker story. This was no ordinary theater, it was a deadly arena. Here, human lives were turned into spectacle, suffering echoed through the crowds, and death was entertainment. To truly understand this iconic monument, we must look past the romance and face the harsh reality beneath the stones. Construction of the Colosseum began in 72 AD under Emperor Vespasian, marking a new chapter in Roman history. It rose on the ruins of Nero's Golden Palace, a symbol of shifting power and reclaiming public space. Nero had taken land for his lavish palace, but Vespasian returned it to the people with an enormous arena. This was no simple gift. It was a calculated political move to distract the masses with grand spectacles. The Colosseum was built not just with stone, but with the power of politics, entertaining crowds while keeping unrest at bay. Every event inside the Colosseum wasn't just entertainment, it was political theater. Emperors used these games to remind everyone who held absolute control. Victories in war were celebrated grandly, and wealth was put on full display. Through their decisions, emperors showed mercy or cruel power directly to the people. The arena was a stage where rulers carefully shaped their public image. A generous emperor could win hearts with lavish games, while a ruthless one ruled through fear. In either case, the message was clear: Rome is powerful, and you hold no power at all. Gladiators weren't the noble heroes movies make them out to be. They were society's outcasts. Many were prisoners of war, dragged from conquered lands and forced into the brutal arena. Some were criminals, condemned to fight for their lives with no hope of mercy. Others were slaves sold like cattle, trapped in a deadly game for the crowd's entertainment. And yes, a few volunteered, men chasing money, fame, or the dream of glory. But once inside the arena, a gladiator lost everything: his freedom, his fate controlled by Rome. Their bodies belonged to the empire, and their blood was spilled for the crowd's cheering. Long before stepping into the arena, gladiators lived confined lives in barracks known as ludi, prisons disguised as schools. Life inside these walls was tough, with constant training, strict discipline, and little comfort. Every strike was practiced, every move drilled, leaving no room for error in the deadly show ahead. Escape was nearly impossible. Surrounded by guarded walls and watchful overseers, gladiators were warriors and captives, entertainers and victims, all bound to face the ultimate fight: death with honor. Not all gladiators fought alike. Each brought their own style to the arena. The Murmillo, heavy with shield and sword, moved slower but packed a powerful punch. In contrast, the Retiarius was nimble, using a net and trident to outmaneuver opponents. Then there was the Thraex, famous for fighting with curved blades for swift, precise strikes. And the Bestiarius faced wild animals instead of human foes, a dangerous and thrilling challenge. Rome mastered the spectacle, pairing gladiators strategically to keep the crowd on the edge of their seats. Every fight was crafted for drama, suspense, and raw intensity, ensuring unforgettable entertainment. Every day at the Colosseum started with a powerful ceremony that set the tone for what was to come. Trumpets thundered across the arena, calling everyone's attention to the grand event. Priests offered solemn sacrifices, invoking the gods for favor and protection. Then the gladiators marched in perfect formation, their armor gleaming under the sun. They saluted the emperor with the haunting words, "Ave Caesar moriturite salutant," a chilling reminder. Many who entered the arena would not survive the day. For the Romans, bloodshed wasn't a tragedy, it was a form of amusement. Zaridze. Crowds didn't just watch, they cheered, laughed, and jeered as men fought fiercely for their lives. Violence became so normal, it was actually celebrated as part of everyday life. Families came together, with parents bringing their children to witness the events. Vendors sold food and treats, turning the arena into more of a festival than a funeral. In the end, the suffering of others was what entertained the masses. The Colosseum wasn't just a stage for gladiators. It was a brutal arena filled with wild beasts from all corners of the ancient world. Lions, elephants, tigers, bears, even crocodiles were shipped from Africa, Asia, and the Middle East, all forced into this deadly spectacle. These animals were either hunted by skilled fighters or cruelly thrown against unarmed prisoners for the entertainment of the masses. In just one festival, nearly 9,000 animals lost their lives, driving some species to the brink of extinction for Rome's amusement. The brutal reality beneath the grandeur of the Colosseum reminds us how far entertainment has come. In ancient Rome, justice was far more than a sentence. It was a grand performance for the crowd. Criminals faced brutal ends, burned alive, crucified, or beheaded, all witnessed by cheering crowds. Some were even thrown helpless to wild animals, turning punishment into a deadly spectacle. Others reenacted mythological stories, dying in elaborate stage shows that mocked their final moments. In Rome, punishment wasn't just about guilt. It was about creating theater that captivated the masses. At the center of it all was the emperor, a figure watched by thousands with every glance and gesture. With the turn of a thumb, he held the power to decide life or death in an instant. To spare a man was to show mercy, while to condemn him was to assert his unchallengeable power. Each decision reminded the people that Rome's ruler controlled not just laws or armies, but the very heartbeat of life itself. You've probably seen the emperor's famous thumbs down in movies, signaling death, and thumbs up meaning mercy. But historians and ancient evidence suggest the opposite might be true. A closed fist could have meant mercy, while a raised thumb may have actually meant the sword, signaling a death sentence. We may never know for sure, but one thing is clear. A person's fate was entirely in the hands of one ruler and the bloodthirsty crowd. Did you know that although rare, women were sometimes forced to fight as gladiators too? These female gladiators, called gladiatresses, shocked audiences with their unexpected presence. Their role wasn't just combat. It was about stirring curiosity and scandal among Roman crowds. Often they were seen less as warriors and more as exotic spectacles to entertain the masses. Rome had a way of using even women's bodies as tools for entertainment and humiliation in the arena. Despite the harsh life they faced, some gladiators rose to legendary status. Names like Flamma and Spartacus echoed through history, capturing hearts and minds. Women admired their courage, and fans proudly carved their names into walls as a tribute. For many, the arena was a prison, but for others, it was the sole path to immortality. Yet behind the glamour and fame was a harsh truth. Death was the only certainty. Gladiator shows weren't cheap. Thousands of animals and massive festivals drained fortunes. Emperors spared no expense, investing heavily to keep the crowds entertained. Every coin spent bought loyalty, and every brutal fight helped keep the streets of Rome peaceful. It was blood money, but for the emperors, it was worth every sacrifice to maintain order. The Colosseum wasn't just for sword fights. In its early days, it was actually flooded for spectacular naval battles called naumachii. Picture wooden warships clashing right in the center of Rome, with slaves and prisoners forced to reenact historic sea battles. These brutal mock wars were deadly, with sinking ships and drowning fighters, all disguised as thrilling entertainment for the crowds. Though the Romans eventually stopped flooding the Colosseum because of engineering challenges, the idea itself shows just how far they went to dazzle their audience. The Colosseum wasn't a clean arena by any means. Its sand was often soaked with blood. The air was thick with the smells of sweat, flesh, and burning, an intense, unforgettable atmosphere. Historians say perfumes and incense were burned to try and mask the stench, but nothing could truly hide the scent of thousands of deaths. For the crowd, this was all part of the experience. A harsh reminder that they were witnessing real life and real death, not just a performance. Romans were deeply superstitious, believing that the blood of gladiators held extraordinary power. It was seen as a symbol of courage and strength, and some even thought it had healing properties. In fact, some Romans drank gladiator blood, convinced it could cure epilepsy and other ailments. Others believed in the power of gladiator sweat, collecting amulets as protective charms. In the shadow of death, Rome crafted rituals that blurred the line between medicine and magic. Not all gladiators accepted their fate as mere fighters for fame. In 73 BC, long before the Colosseum stood tall, one gladiator named Spartacus escaped a brutal training school. His daring escape ignited a massive slave rebellion that shook the core of the Roman Republic. Tens of thousands of slaves joined Spartacus, challenging the powerful Roman armies time and again. For nearly 2 years, Rome itself trembled as their legions struggled to suppress the revolt. Though Spartacus was ultimately killed, his name became a lasting symbol of resistance and hope. His uprising revealed the truth. Gladiators weren't just entertainers, they were prisoners fighting for freedom. Back in ancient Rome, attending the games was free for citizens, making it a true public event. Tickets were handed out, and seating was carefully arranged by social class, creating a clear hierarchy. Senators and the elite enjoyed the best seats close to the arena, shaded and comfortable. Meanwhile, women, slaves, and the poor were relegated to the highest, less comfortable tiers. Food vendors roamed the aisles selling bread, wine, and snacks to hungry spectators. The crowd's energy was palpable, cheering, shouting, and even gambling on the gladiators' chances. The Colosseum wasn't just an arena. It was the beating heart of Roman social life and culture. In ancient Rome, games were more than just entertainment. They were part of a clever strategy called panem et circenses, or bread and circuses. By offering free food and thrilling spectacles, emperors kept the people focused on immediate pleasures instead of the harsh realities around them. The Colosseum, famous for its gladiator games, was less about sport and more about maintaining peace and control over the empire. As long as citizens were fed and entertained, they were less likely to challenge the corruption and poverty plaguing their society. The Colosseum is famous for its brutal history, but it's also deeply connected to stories of Christian martyrdom. While historians debate if mass executions happened here, tales of believers facing lions or crucifixion became powerful symbols. These stories transformed the Colosseum from a site of cruelty into a monument of faith, resistance, and hope. Today it stands not only as a reminder of Rome's past, but as an enduring emblem of spiritual courage. Some emperors didn't just hold games, they turned them into massive weeks-long festivals. During Emperor Trajan's games, over 10,000 gladiators fought fiercely across more than 100 days. And it wasn't just gladiators. More than 11,000 animals were hunted and slain for the spectacle. The scale was beyond imagination. Rivers of blood, mountains of corpses, and entire cities of captives executed. For Rome, cruelty had no limits when it came to showing who held the real power. As the mighty Roman Empire began to weaken, so too did the thrilling gladiator games everyone once loved. Economic troubles made these costly shows harder to sustain, and the public's taste started to change. At the same time, Christianity was spreading rapidly, condemning the brutal blood sport as cruel and inhumane. By the 5th century, the gladiator battles had come to an end, but other harsh spectacles like animal hunts lingered on for a while. In time, the arena of blood fell silent, leaving only ruins as a reminder of a brutal past. When the empire fell, the mighty Colosseum started to crumble, its glory fading with time. Powerful earthquakes shook its foundations, turning the grand arena into a fragile shadow of its former self. Over the centuries, its stones were taken away to build churches, palaces, and roads across the city. What was once alive with cheers and fierce battles fell eerily silent, scavenged like a forgotten relic. For centuries, the Colosseum was wrapped in mystery, with locals whispering about the ghosts that prowled its ancient tunnels. They said the spirits of gladiators still roamed the underground passages, trapped in a timeless battle. Some believed the place was cursed, a lingering reminder of Rome's violent history and the sins etched deep within its walls. Travelers often whispered about hearing the clash of swords echoing through the night, as if the arena's bloody past came back to life. These legends have become part of the city's soul, like a scar left by time, forever marking Rome's unforgettable past. During the Renaissance, curious scholars began to uncover the stories hidden in the ancient ruins of the Colosseum. Artists captured the majestic decay in their paintings, turning the Colosseum into a subject of awe and inspiration. Poets and thinkers praised its grandeur, recognizing it as a symbol far beyond its bloody past. Architects studied its design closely, admiring the engineering brilliance that had stood the test of time. In time, the Colosseum transformed from a place of shame to a proud emblem of Rome's lasting greatness. Today, the Colosseum stands as one of the world's most visited monuments, drawing millions to its ancient halls. Tourists eagerly enter, eyes wide with wonder, ready to explore history etched in every corner. Guides share captivating tales of gladiators, painting vivid pictures of bravery and battle. But beyond the admiration, the Colosseum quietly whispers stories of death and sacrifice. Each stone holds memories of screams, blood, and the harsh realities of those ancient games. The Gladiator games reveal a darker side of humanity, where cruelty was masked as culture. They show us how power can transform life into spectacle, turning suffering into entertainment. Even after centuries, the psychology behind watching pain for amusement still echoes in today's entertainment. The Colosseum isn't just history, it's a mirror reflecting how we continue to consume spectacle. The Colosseum stands as a paradox, both an architectural marvel and a monument to cruelty. It tells the story of Rome's brilliance and its brutal past, a true reflection of power and downfall. The dark truth of the Gladiator games isn't just about ancient Rome, it's a mirror of human nature itself. It warns us about the dangers of turning life into mere spectacle, where blood is hidden behind grandeur. As we gaze upon these ruins, we are reminded, behind every stone lies the shadow of blood.